Cheat Code.
Welcome to Pickleball Cheat Code, the show for competitive pickleball players who want to level up their game. We focus on advanced strategies for experienced players, stuff only the pros really know. I'm Brodie Smith. I'm a 5.5 duper and coach. I'm here with my co-host, Tanner Tomasi.
What's up, guys?
Tanner is a 6.0 duper and APP national bronze medalist. Today, we're covering everything you need to know about mastering the midcourt and the transition zone. At the end of the episode, I'm going to be putting Tanner in the hot seat for an intense game of Would You Rather, Pickleball Edition. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss that.
Let's go.
You can watch the video version of the show on YouTube or Spotify, or listen to it wherever you get your podcast. New episodes weekly. Subscribe so you never miss one. And if you like the show, leave us a review. Okay, episode 3, Tanner. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing great as always. You get any drilling in today? Any playing?
I got some games in this morning with the elite of the elite. I got to play with big ALW and AB.
How'd that go?
We didn't win a game.
No way.
Yeah, they're very good. So
that's some good competition. I just got to New York today, so need to find the pickleball scene here and get dialed in, but I'm excited to be here. But yeah, episode 3, we're here to break down the transition zone here in pickleball, the midcourt. Love it or fear it. This is a daunting area in pickleball. This is where, you can really make or break your game. Everything really is interconnected. Whether you're really good with dinking or really good at hitting your thirds, the transition zone is what connects all the dots. For me, this is a mindset that I like to have here in this transition zone is there's no ball that I can't handle. A lot of people consider this a no man's land like they do in tennis, but this is an area where I like to just try to be a wall and nothing can get past me. Tanner, when you're in the transition zone, what's your mindset? What's your ultimate goal? What are you thinking about to be successful in this area?
yeah, when I'm in the midcourt, my goal is basically to always have a very low ready position. And I'm really looking to just absorb my opponent's ball. So really take and use their pace and try to hit the ball softly back into the kitchen. And the second thing that's on my mind is just trying to dodge a potential out ball. Since I'm in the midcourt, I don't want to be hitting balls that are really above my hips.
Yep, makes sense. And we're going to break that down a lot more too about, even just letting out balls go and which balls to hit and which balls to take. I just think in general, this area is, I think everything we talk about is overlooked in one way or another, but this is the area that really separates high level players. If you're not able to get through the midcourt, you're screwed. You go play against players like ALW, like you said, and there's just nothing you can do. Those players are the ones that are really dictating the pace of the game, and they're really telling you what their next move is and how they're going to be able to apply pressure on you by just either being consistent or coming through and striking. And speaking of that, one of the key points of that transition zone is how to transition with intention without getting stuck and what your footwork is supposed to look like. So for you, how do you gauge whether you're going to be creeping in with patience versus coming in hot, full speed and attacking? Where do you draw the line based off who you're playing and what types of shot that you're hitting?
So if I am looking at my partner hitting their third shot drop, if the ball looks like it's going to bounce in the kitchen, or if the opponent's going to have to take it from like their knee or below, that's when I'm going to fully commit and just kind of be like a cat up at the kitchen line going wherever they hit the ball. I'm just going to try to attack it, especially if I can get it out of the air. If it bounces, I'll dink it back, then go to my side. However, if my partner hits their drop and say it's landing like just above the knee, so let's say like their thigh to waist, that's when I'm going to be a little more patient. I'm going to assess the situation. Most likely the opponent will have to hit up on the ball. So in the back of my mind, I'm looking to potentially pounce and attack the ball if I can read it early. Anything higher than that, if it's waist high or higher, I'm looking to really just stay put, maybe creep in a step or two. But that's when I'm really in defensive mode, looking to just reset as opposed to attack.
Yeah. And there's some players too that execute this really well where they'll throw in mix-ups where they're consistently creeping in slowly. And then every once in a while, they'll just come in, and it's not necessarily a poach because they're not going cross-court. They'll just come at you straight up where you're showing them that you're standing in the middle and you're maybe just walking, And at the last second, some of these players, you feel like you have room when you're attacking and putting pressure back because you want to go to somebody's feet. But those players will just come up and take a stab right at the net, come in and just flash and counter. Is that something that you experiment at all with, where you're doing that mix up and that strategy? I feel like I don't do that enough personally, but when players do it to me, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely risk and reward. Maybe if you feel more confident than the player that's in front of you and you think you have better hands or something of that sense, and you kind of want to initiate more hands fights, then I would. If I'm playing a team that I have a lot of respect for or has like a lot of that's just good, heavy hands, I want to play just to a net positive. If I do that a couple times a game, that could lead to an easy error in transition. That could lead to my team not getting to the net. Mm-hmm. So against a team that has good hands, that I don't know how many freebies I'll get, that's when I'll kind of just stay back and not really show me poaching. Maybe, or like sneaking in, maybe like once a game, but that's definitely not going to be my base strategy.
Yeah, makes sense. And then going in a little bit more detail regarding the footwork and that pacing as well. When I'm coaching, one of the main things I see is players just kind of running through the ball, and that's where they lose chaos and consistency, that's where things become more chaotic. So having a well-timed split step is the most important thing, I feel like. So having that key split step, getting in a really athletic stance and getting on the balls of your feet. What I like to teach people is to split step, because they split step way too late, and I had this problem a lot as well. So I think split stepping before your opponent even starts winding up, or as they start winding up to hit that next shot, that's when I'm split stepping, so I'm not too late and I'm fully locked in and getting really low and loaded. Is that typically how you approach that section as well of the court?
Yeah, so the way I teach it is you want to basically, when the drop is traveling through the air, you want to take as much ground as possible. Yeah. If it looks decent, if it's an overhead, obviously not. But if it looks decent, take as much ground as possible as that ball's traveling through the air. And then I teach and I preach, I follow. I want to split step when that ball crosses the plane of the net.
I like that.
When the opponent is making contact with the ball, it's too late. You don't have enough time to react. That extra quarter of a second where you can be completely still and set as the opponent strikes the ball goes a such long way.
Yeah. And I think being intentional about what you said is so important too. Making up as much ground as you can without sacrificing your footwork at the end and then being too rushed, because you have to find that proper balance of applying as much pressure and making up as much ground as you can. You know, some people are a lot faster than others, so you just kind of have to go at your own pace. But as long as you're making that ground, and like you said, as soon as that ball travels, that's what's effective though. Going back to a previous episode of our drops and drive episode that we did, is that once you're hitting those really high drops, that's something that also gives you more room for effective transitioning. Some people like to hit really low drops, and that's the other problem with the driving too, is that it's going to kind of screw you over sometimes in that transition. So going back to that, hitting that high arcing third really gives you that time and flexibility to make up as much ground as possible. How often are you getting to the net on one drop? Like, are you doing that as much as you can? I mean, obviously as much as you can, but is that happening to you consistently?
Yeah, I would say the time, that's actually a very good question. Well said. The time I'm able to get to the net without having to hit a reset. So I'm dropping and then I'm at the net is actually when I hit a more sharp penetrating drop that bounces and that my opponent might have to like short hop at their feet. That is when I can go all the way in. If I hit a push drop, meaning like I don't put anything on it, I'm kind of just floating it through the air, I'm almost hitting the drop with the intention of hitting a reset, because the opponent just has so much time to create. The ball's going to bounce. It's going to land high. They're going to be able to create off of it. Where if you're hitting those sharp penetrating drops, they can't really create. If they try to create off a good penetrating drop, it's going to be attackable. You're going to be able to attack it. So they have to concede, lay the ball in the kitchen, and then you're in with nothing else going on.
Yeah, makes sense. And then regarding attackability, going off what you just said, how do you gauge whether a ball is attackable or not? Obviously, if it's going above your shoulder and you're going to want to rip the shit out of it, that's super obvious. But there's a lot of balls that come, directly at your chest at maybe a mid-level speed, and you feel like you could rip it. Another thing that I see coaching is a lot is that players will rush this too often, and they're always trying to drill it and rip it across your chest. But even at higher levels too, even pros, they'll take these balls. You're at a disadvantaged. The person at the kitchen is obviously in the advantage state. When you're in the center of the court, this is when you need to be patient and be hitting those resets and drops. I take the approach typically where I'm more conservative in this area, where I'm hitting those simple resets. And I just have that mindset, like I said in the beginning, I'm going to reset all day long. If I hit a dead reset that's a little high, who cares? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again until I get one where I feel like that's comfortable enough. Usually that just takes one or two, and then I'm in pushing. But how do you make that read yourself, going from those easy resets versus attacking?
Yeah, I think to basically piggyback off what you just said, I think like the way the game used to be, you could just paddle speed and spin with the paddles. You could just basically reset, work your way in. But now I think that if you only do that and your opponent can pick up that you're not going to attack, you're not threatening. So they're going to be very aggressive on their fourths, meaning you hit the drop, say it's a good drop that lands in the kitchen, might give them trouble. But if they know you're not an attacking threat at all, like they're just going to speed the ball up from their shoes and put pressure on you. So you have, in today's day and age, you have to be able to attack the ball when necessary. The rule of thumb that I follow, that I figured out just watching a ton of film and drilling, this is like a good little pro tip, is say you're like within 3 feet of the kitchen line. Okay. If you're here and the opponent like hits a ball that floats, you want to attack this and say it comes to your backhand. 3 feet within the kitchen line, you want to attack it with a one-handed backhand. Anything behind that 3 foot mark, you want to load up with two hands and hit a two-hander. And if it's coming straight at your body, that's enough time for you to slide out of the way to the left or to the right and be able to crank it. But on the backhand, it's got to be two hands from deeper than 3 foot on the court.
Why not two? I feel like I get that because you're getting the reach and you're getting a quick reaction. But what if it's like mid-level height, chest height? You still don't think two for that counter at that level? I mean, what's the logic? Like, why do you prefer one in that area the most?
Within the 3 feet?
Yes, within three.
Yeah, so within 3 feet, I want to use one hand just because it's much, I know for me, I'm much more snappy with the one hand. I'm able to get the ball down significantly easier and catch it sharper out in front. When you use two hands, you have to let the ball get a little deeper on you, where if you're that close to the kitchen line, I don't want to have to be exchanging between two and one hands. I want to just completely control it, snap my wrist, and make my opponent feel just sheer power. I know for me personally, I generate significantly more power with one hand than two. So that's pretty much my reasoning.
I need to get better at that. I can't hit a one-hand backhand rip to save my life. I can't
do it too, so it makes two of us.
That's tough. So that going back to what you said, like the ability for when you're playing a player that can come in and just snap it, it's 20,000 times harder. I have to think so much more when I'm hitting that fourth, because if they can come in and just rip it at you, it's a nightmare. I was trying to drill with Anderson Scarpa a couple weeks back, and he would do that every time, where he can come in, and normally that would be at somebody's feet. He takes those extra steps and just rips it with his backhand, and it's coming at my chest in 2 seconds. So I have to be so much more mindful, because so many of those fourths too, it's a good third coming in, and that fourth shot, I like to take a step back, let it bounce and load. But by the time I'm taking that step back and loading, that's when your opponent has enough time to work in. That's what's so effective about that transition and making that effective third, so you can come in and snap it at the end. Something that I also wanted to focus on was footwork and drilling in more on the footwork side of things. So obviously we talked about the split step, right? And getting low, super effective. What I always focus on is getting as low as I can, getting my butt to the ground, getting a wide athletic stance, feet down, balls on the front of my feet. What else do you like to do to ensure that you have proper footwork, so that way you are staying as consistent as possible?
Yeah, everything you said is spot on. The only thing that I would add is you want to make sure that you're always anticipating and well balanced. I know something that I'm still working on, that I'm trying to drill to fix, is if I see a good drop, like say I hit one or my partner hits one and I'm following in trying to crash, I almost too much fully commit with my weight and body going forward. And I'm anticipating, the ball's coming to my backhand, coming to my backhand. And then it comes to my forehand and I'm just toast. Like I like fall, I'm off balance. So I think really being balanced upright and then really reading it, even if it means that you have to lose a step getting to the kitchen line, but being able to accurately read that ball makes all the difference. So almost like not getting too ahead of yourself. Like, oh, we got the drop. Here I go. Here I go. You got to calm. Oh, nope. Next part. Bam, boom, pounce.
I love playing against players that have that, not that mindset, but the bad part of what you said, where they get too antsy and they get too excited, because you can just drift like a little off-pace angle ball and they think they're going to fly in and smack it. And then that's when they're creating errors. They're switching, paddle face on either forehand or backhand, and they're trying to force something that's just not there. So I think a big piece of advice for people is to be mindful, calm, take a deep breath, be relaxed. I notice when people are super tense in that transition zone and they get really excited or nervous that this hard put away is going to be coming at them or a ball's a little too high, that's when I see errors come in the most. People's bodies, they'll have like some jerk reaction or they think they're calm in the kitchen. But I think being zen, being jello, and being fully relaxed in that area is one of the most important things, and one of the biggest things that I've seen help people when I coach is having that mindset.
Yeah, I was playing games, I think it was yesterday morning, with Hayden Patriquin, and he was helping me basically up my game. And the main thing that he said, because I tend to make loose errors, when it gets tight moments later in the game, or overhitting. And the thing that he told me was, you have to have like your body go fast, but your mind go slow. It makes the court a lot bigger. When you're rushed trying to hit and snap at these balls and, oh God, I got to do it. That's when just everything goes frantic. When your mind is just calm and it's like, oh, it's just another day. It's just another point. Yeah. You just flow through the motions so much easier, being significantly more consistent and just way more of a threat than antsy, amped up with your heart going a million miles an hour.
I mean, that we can talk about for hours. That's one of the main things that I focus on too with my quote unquote students. And it applies to every level of the game, transitioning specifically more so than a lot of other areas. And then also when you're in hands battles too, but that's another episode and we'll discuss what that's like. But having that calm mindset, I couldn't stress how important that is. And then one of the last things I want to touch about is when we're planted in that center zone, how do you determine when a ball is coming towards your feet as like a gutter ball, of taking it out of the air versus letting it short hop and using that backboard? What does your paddle angle look like, and how are you positioning yourself for those shots?
Yeah, so I basically always use two hands on my resets. And the reason is I like to think of like two hands, like that second hand is almost just like a ton of lead tape. If that might be an advanced analogy, but it's basically like just way more support. So having those two hands, like all paddles are going to, if you hit the edge, it's not just going to be as consistent. Whereas when you hold two hands on the paddle, it just basically makes the thing like an absolute backboard on any paddle. So I'm always with two hands, and with my top hand on the paddle, I'm kind of cupping upward. So I'm not trying to hit laser beam resets. I'm trying to survive. So by cupping upward, that's going to always put the ball on an upward trajectory. And the way I decide whether I'm going to short hop it or take it off, take it off the bounce or take it out of the air is I almost always like to let it bounce if I can. It is so much easier to reset. If you're taking a ball out of the air from like your shins, that's difficult to get in the kitchen. It is. For some reason, when it bounces, it just takes energy off and just gives you way more feel over the ball. So any opportunity I can read and just short hop it or just get the reset off the bounce, always doing it every time.
The short hop I feel like it's so much easier too. Some players really love that out of the air and they hit some chop, like J-Dub will just like chop it out of the air at random times and it works great for him. But I feel like I get more consistency. And how I think of it too is when I'm out of the air, I create more of a 45-degree open angle of my paddle and let that ball just kind of rainbow back over the kitchen. And then when I'm doing a short hop, I create a flat wall and I just let that ball just cascade, bounce off the ground, right off my paddle. And it just typically resets and does a lot of the work. Shameless plug. When I think you did the same thing recently, I switched to the 2 shape of the Carbon True Foam. So that's more of the square shape type paddle. For me, an area I was lacking on previously just a little bit was the transition zone and that consistency. And I know a lot of players are talking about making the switch to the square shape, and it's a hot topic in the paddle industry. We'll have a whole episode discussing gear and going down that route. But for me, the consistency I've had from making that switch to that paddle has been night and day for me, specifically in the transition zone. And I feel like that's something that's, resonated with you too.
Yeah, I mean, switching to the two, I've nicknamed it in like my group that I play with. Shout out to Casey Diamond, Richard Livernice. We play a lot, like almost every day here. We've nicknamed it. I've coined it the shield, just because you put it in front of you, it blocks your entire chest, and it's like you can just handle every ball. I think especially if you're playing the right side of the court, which I am, you're usually the more beta player. So I am the backboard on the right side. I don't need to be using like what we call the sword, the longer one. Like I don't need the extra. The sword and the shield. I like to just have that less reach. The hands are faster through the air, but I do not miss any balls. My best shot is the reset now. I'm not even kidding.
Let's go. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. All right, let's focus on getting better at this area. You wake up tomorrow morning. We want to work on transitioning. What are you doing in the court? You go out there with one other person and you want to get some drilling in. What are some games that you like to play? I feel like there's going to be a standout one that a lot of people like to do. And on top of 7-Eleven, little plug there. What drills do you like to do?
Yeah, before I get into the drills, I'll just say this. The thing that will immediately, without even having to practice, the thing that will instantly make you better, that I'm just recently doing, say 6 months ago, is I reset almost every ball from the midcourt, cross court toward the middle. Whereas before, I used to always reset straight ahead. Doing this has significantly made me more than 100 times better in the transition zone. And the reason is when you go cross court, you have way more room to work with. Instead of dropping straight, you're dropping diagonal. And on top of that, so it's extra feet. On top of that, the net is 2 inches lower. And that goes such a long way in being able to get the ball down. And like I said, if you're listening to this podcast, go out to the courts tomorrow. When you're in the midcourt, reset diagonally, cross court. Immediately, you will be like, I just broke this game.
So you mean going over the center tape, essentially, like wherever you are. If you're on the left side, you just want to go diagonal, just right over, not all the way to the right, but like
just
middle.
Like almost like going right over the outside of the center tape. Like that's where you want to aim. Not right over the middle and not super out wide, but just aiming towards the center tape, a tiny bit to the left or right, depending on your side.
What's funny is I'm typically always going straight, just because.
Exactly. Oh, let's hear it.
Because that's where I'm drilling the most.
Exactly.
When I'm going one-on-one with somebody and I'm not spending the time. Sometimes we'll do cross court, mid-court, but it's usually I'm doing cross court third drilling, but I'm not doing cross court mid-court reset drilling. You know what I mean?
No, I'm telling you, dropping cross, I started doing, or resetting cross, I started doing, like actually doing the drills, because I used to drill straight ahead.
Yeah.
And in the moment when you're in the heat of the game, if you only drill straight ahead, but you should be dropping cross, you're going to drop straight ahead. And then every time I do it, I'm like, oh shoot. And then like the ball's left too high and we lose the point.
So other than better angles, is it typically creating more offense because it's also going to somebody's like inside foot, for example, and then causing confusion in the middle? Is that the other two main?
I wouldn't say that, because I think like depending on the side you're on, it's going to like a forehand or a backhand, whatever. I think just the main thing is like if you go to the kitchen and like say you lean in straight and imagine somebody's resetting straight ahead, and then lean in like diagonally, like somebody's resetting diagonally, and they have just so much more room. Like it's an extra 3 feet that you have to work with, that like if you just get the ball over in that general direction, like it bounces almost every time. I use it to get in. It's a cheat code.
All right. Cheat code. Write that down. Let's go. Yeah. And another thing about going straight that happens too, now that I think about it, is people are going to Ernie that ball a lot too. If it's really obvious, they had a high pressure angle shot, they can just go right around that. Whereas you put that towards the middle cross court, you're just going to save yourself for sure. No, I'm glad you plugged that in there. That's a clutch cheat code. So to the drilling portion, what do you typically like to do? So we just touched on the cross court, mid court. I clearly need to start doing that more. Anything else beyond that you like to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm drilling, I just like to really get a lot of reps doing something. So I'll play some games sometimes. For resets specifically, I don't know how many games I'll be playing. Normally, I'll just stand in the midcourt, have my partner either straight ahead or diagonal, and he'll just be like ripping balls at me, and I'm just like endlessly trying to get them back for like 5-10 minutes, and then like I'm good to go.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. I like to gamify everything just to make it more fun. Put on some music and midcourt. I don't know why. I feel like that's the most fun area for me to drill too, even more so than dinking in thirds. Just hitting those resets over and over. It's just like such a rewarding experience. As lame as that sounds, it's just I don't know why. I just love it. But when you're sitting there, one of the drills is playing to 10, and I just learned this drill pretty recently, which is great. So the person that's hitting whatever the fourth shot would be at you, they're at the net. They're just trying to win the point without lobbing or hitting a drop shot. They're just trying to just drill it at you. And if I'm in the midcourt, I'm trying to hit 10 resets in a row. And if I hit 10 in a row, that's 1 point. If I mess up once, it's their point. And obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to get that point. Or if the other person messes up once too, while they're trying to attack you, then you also get a point that way. So then also has to train you while you're at the kitchen to hit effective pressure shots. Whereas when you're on the receiving end, you just want to be as consistent as possible. You stay in the middle and you're getting points that way. First 1 to 11 wins. It's great. And then the other one, the typical 7-11, where you have one person at the kitchen, one person back starting at the baseline. They have to get to 7 total. The one at the kitchen has to get to 11. So they have obviously more of an advantage. That person just feeds a ball. You just try to work in from there and you can start your typical transition. You could drive, hit a third, whatever works best for you. But 7-11 is always a fun one. I'm sure you play that quite a bit as well.
Yeah, those are all good drills. I'll leave it at that for the drills. I think those are spot on, definitely.
Let's go. Love it. All right, well, let's wrap up here. You threw in a great cheat code towards the end and having that cross-court shot. But some of the other things to wrap up on are it's about having that mindset of being really, really calm and really, really confident. Some people get scared in that transition zone and they don't have the confidence or ability where they think they can make that shot or miss it. But being able to just be that wall, take a deep breath, I think is one of the most important things. This is a non-panic zone. This is a calm transition zone. Getting low, getting your feet set, and having that split step, like Tanner mentioned, right when that ball crosses the net. You don't want to do it too late. You don't want to do it too early. We're trying to cover as much ground as you can until you get to that point, breath, split step, and then go from there. And then another thing too is having a good arc on that ball. Sometimes people are trying to reset and it's going really flat right over the net. We want really high margins in that transition zone as you're working in. We want that ball to rainbow over, dive at somebody's feet, and that way you have high consistent margins. You need to be able to hit this shot unlimited times in theory. Tanner, anything else that we should do for some wrapping up here? Anything else that I need to touch on?
No, I think you hit everything on the head. It's just a lot of practice, game repetitions, and just being calm in the mind. I mean, you can do all the reps, but if you get nervous, it's tough to execute.
All right. Are you ready for the fun part now?
Let's go.
All right, Tanner. I didn't prep you for this at all, and I'm excited to dive right into this. We're playing a game of Would You Rather Pickleball Edition. I'm so proud to say that I came up with all of these questions on my own. A little bit of help from the team. These questions are pretty stupid. Yeah, that's what I like to hear already. All right, I'm going to throw them at you, shot out of the cannon. Give me your thoughts, and we're going to rapid fire. There's about 10 of these. All right, first one. Would you rather play a tournament right-handed, for those that don't know, Tanner's a lefty, or play a tournament hobbling on one leg?
What level's the tournament?
This is your next pro tournament.
This is a lose-lose. Hobbling on one leg for sure.
Are you not good on the right side, right hand?
We would get obliterated, yeah.
Okay. Would you rather only be able to drive the ball and speed up, or only be able to hit drops and lobs? You can still dink for both of these. You can still dink. But if you're going to apply pressure, you have to speed up or lob for both of those, if that makes sense.
Drop and lob. I've been becoming elite with the lob.
Okay. I feel like that's the new meta in pickleball. That's something I need to work on that. I don't do any of that. Okay. Would you rather eat a pickle spear with your dinner every night, or every morning when you wake up, you have to take a shot of pickle juice?
Oh, that's a very odd question to be. Okay. I would say pickle juice in the morning. I just get me fired up.
All right. I like it. Would you rather only be able to drill or only be able to play games like rec level games? Tournaments don't count.
Yeah, only rec games. If I drill like for 7 days in a row, like I've been doing for like weeks on end, I contemplate everything. The games make it very enjoyable.
Okay. Contemplate everything as in you just get driven mad.
Just in life, yes. I contemplate what I'm doing. I can't do it. The drills is fun for like an hour, but then it's too much. Games.
All right. Here's a fun one. Would you rather scream as loud as you can every time you drive the ball, or say it's Tanner time every time you hit a dink? And that's just at a normal talking voice, the way we're talking right now.
Oh, it's Tanner time.
Okay. I like it. Would you rather have every tournament you play, you have to wear soaking wet socks, or you have to wear a top hat? Like, think Abraham Lincoln.
Oh my gosh.
It won't fall off your head. It won't fall off your head.
Oh God. I feel like the top hat's going to weigh me down. The socks, that's like a pet peeve of mine. I do not like that at all. I'm going to say the top hat. Socks, no good.
Another thing to note though, tall players, if you get a speed up and it hits that top hat, you're losing the point. Just noting it.
It's true. I couldn't focus in the socks.
Okay. Would you rather be known as the guy who blames the wind constantly and is always arguing line calls, or be unable to do any stretching or warm-ups for any of your matches?
Oh, I'd say no stretching or warm-ups. Pickleball world is so small, the reputation,
dude, that's a good answer.
In a second.
I knew you'd say that. I like it. Would you rather bark like a dog every time you lose a point, or have jazz hands every time you win a point?
Oh, jazz hands.
Let's go.
I'm not going to do much losing of the points,
That's the confidence I like to see. All right, last one. Would you rather play your next tournament with me, or sit out the tournament entirely?
Sit out the tournament.
God.
Wait, what was it? Play with you or sit out?
When I surfaced that question to our team, they said that it was going to be the easiest answer of all these for you. I hate you.
Depending on the tournament, I would play with you. How about that?
No, this is your next, whatever you have, your next PPA. All right.
I'll sit that one out. I'll save the flight money.
Son of a bitch. Okay. All right. Well, that's a great way to end it. Tanner, I love you. That was fantastic. Great episode. Looking forward to seeing you next time, but I appreciate everything here. Thought that was a great time, and stay tuned, everyone.
Sweet.
All right. See you, man.